Welcome to My Mentor. This is a platform that seeks to provide world-class mentoring content by leveraging on the skills, experiences, wisdom, and knowledge of established professionals, leaders, business people, and entrepreneurs. We seek to inspire, empower, and challenge professionals and individuals to reach the next level in their professional, business, and career leadership journeys. Welcome to the next level. Lungile, thank you so much for making the time to be with us today. Excited about the conversation we'll have. Firstly, just give us a bit of a background around, who is Lungile? Where did you grow up? How was life back when you were growing
up? Thank you, Jabu, for having me on the show. My name is Lungile Phakathi. Well, my family called me Gugu.
Yes.
As you would know, I am currently a managing director of the company called The Modern Firm. The Modern Firm is a group of companies made up of the Modern Accounting Firm, which focuses more on assurance work. We also have the Modern Consulting Firm, which focuses on business services work and other consulting work, as well as the Modern Academy, which focuses on development of young professionals and focuses more in terms of empowering them with technical skills that they need when they have to start on a professional work, as well as opportunities for young graduates that are starting up in the market, in the workplace. In terms of my upbringing, I grew up in KZN. I was born Msinga. It has become one of the key areas today because I remember the president was saying that there's a TV that's coming up there. For the first time, I had that name being called out. So there's some developments happening there in my hometown. So I grew up there and born of two parents that I grew up with, and I stayed there for my whole high school life. I went to Dundee. There? Yes, I studied there. I went to Dundee Secondary School where I did my high school and graduated and moved up then to Pretoria where I pursued my varsity studies.
Was that at which institution?
It was at TUT. I started at TUT as doing a diploma in accounting. Mm-hmm. So eventually when I finished matric, I wanted to become a CA.
Yes.
And at the time, because I did not have enough information in terms of where I should go for my studies. When I started out, I thought that studying whether at the technical or at the varsity was the same. Only after when I was done and I had completed that I had to learn that, no, actually I need to do my certificate of theory in accounting. I was like, okay, what is that? How do I access that? And that's when I learned that I actually need to have my degree and after that then be able to do my honors, which eventually would be the CTA that I needed to pursue that.
So at what point did you realize or decide that you wanted to be a CA?
It was actually at high school when I started to choose my subjects because I went for the commerce stream, not because it was inspired by something, but by default, I just ended up in that class. But because I was doing so well in that class and my teachers would say, this one is going to be an accountant, you're an accountant. And I was like, okay, what is an accountant? And for the first time, I got to learn about accounting when I was doing, I think it was standard 6 at the time. And when I learned about this word accountant, I was like, maybe I can become an accountant. What is it about? So then I started writing to the firms, the big firms at the time. I remember writing to EY, writing to the institute, wanting to know and getting more information about what a CA is, how to become a chartered accountant. And that's how I actually acquired information about having to become a CA. And by the time I got to grade 12, I was convinced that that's what I wanted to become.
So the school didn't have like career guidance programs and things like that?
No, at my school at the time, there wasn't a program that was geared to doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after you've completed your CTA, where did you now go do your articles?
I did my articles at the BDO office in Parktown at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so which was quite a nice journey because prior to studying my articles, I had actually worked in corporate. But even having worked in corporate, because of the long journey that it took me to eventually get to a point of getting into doing articles, it was something that I knew that I wanted not to be without.
Yeah.
You know, because I remember when I started out, I joined Siemens, where I did a graduate program.
Yes.
But me going there was also because they were accredited training provider at the time, but only to get there, and they had stopped the training. So I worked there as a project accountant, and there were very good prospects for me to stay there and to grow within the company, because it's a big multinational. But because I wanted to qualify as a CA, I had to leave that job and then go start my articles.
Yeah.
So going into articles, it was quite interesting because it was eventually getting into where I've always wanted to be. You know, I knew more than other trainees because obviously of having had the corporate experience.
Yeah.
But also that also gave me a picture to say that if I finish my training, I know what I'm going back to corporate to do after having finished my training.
So why did you not, after doing your CTA, go straight into articles? You said you were in corporate before.
Yes.
What happened there?
The studies that I pursued after my diploma, I was doing them part-time.
Okay.
So it was part-time studying while working. Yes. So which was quite a journey.
Yes.
You know, having to juggle your work and your studies is not easy, particularly if you're studying with UNISA.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to discipline myself a lot, you know, to know that if I want to get to the next point, I have to give up certain things in my life so that I can be able to accommodate my academic life and be able to succeed in it. So I did my degree with UNISA part-time while working, as well as my CTA. I did it while working as well, and only went into articles, I think, after having attempted it the first time.
Yeah.
Then, because I was like, I think at this point I would be able to understand what's happening. Then I went into training.
Wasn't it difficult working and studying at the same time?
It was difficult, but because after finishing my first studies at the University of Technology, I went straight into studying again to upgrade at UNISA my degree. So I never really had a life of not studying. So I did not know how it was like not to be studying, because I always was studying and working. So it sort of became intertwined into who I was, and even the people I associated with, it was always the people who were pursuing the same things that I was doing at the time.
Yeah, and now obviously you're a qualified CA.
Yeah.
What does it mean for you to be a qualified CA? What's that thing when you think about the CA designation that makes you very proud to be one?
I think firstly because of its prestige.
Yeah.
You know, it's being amongst the top qualified people within our profession, and also the credibility that it brings with you if you just have to say, look, I'm a CA. Everybody holds it in high regard, regardless of what may have happened in the recent times regarding that. And it's also a profession that you can go internationally and practice under the same designation. I mean, recently SAICA they managed to get the CASA designation to be recognized even outside South Africa, so that you can practice like a CASA world.
Yeah.
That's a designation that they now have, they're looking at to say, opportunities if you are a CA are endless. You know, there's certain things that I've gone into, not because I was initially trained on them, but because of the amount of knowledge that I've gained through the training that I attained as a CA.
So you spoke about SAICA. I understand you're involved with them on some committees. Which committees do you get involved in? What do you do there?
Okay, the committee that I currently serve in is one of the subcommittees of the board. It looks after the Assurance Governance Committee. Basically, what they are trying to do is to look at assurance matters that also affect members that are in practice. And in association with EBA, which is the professional body for registered auditors, those meetings are convened to look at matters that are topical within the profession, and also to look at matters that are coming from IFEC, the standard setters, to say, this is coming up, how do we prepare our members to put this on board? And from where I sit, I represent the small and medium firms within the whole industry.
And how did that opportunity come about?
It was just one of those things where you are picked out of nowhere. You get a call to say, look, we have this committee happening. would you be interested to serve in this? And for me, I was like, hell yes. I did not even know at the time what it entailed, because in terms of my career plan, I always thought it would be good for me to do certain things in a certain order, and serving on strategic committees that are responsible for setting standards and looking at legislative issues is one of the things that I wanted to achieve within my career. And when that came, I was like, this is giving me an opportunity to the door that I want to go into.
And what do you like the most about being in a setting like that, in a committee with a strong brand like SAICA?
Firstly, it's eye-opening, because if you're a CA that doesn't read, I mean, once you qualify, you don't want to know about SAICA sometimes. You just want to pay your subscription, what they are doing. Even if there are events, you don't even want to look. You just delete, because sometimes it takes so much for you to try and get yourself accredited and get to be recognized within that institution, that when you get there, you just don't want to be associated with them.
You referred earlier to the recent SAICA incidents, so to speak. I presume you're talking about CAs that have been in the public space about things they shouldn't have done. What do you think SAICA is doing to correct that?
There is more emphasis in terms of ethics and going back to basics, more focus in terms of ethical leadership, and bringing more awareness, and obviously going through also the disciplinary process in terms of the guys that have not done or have been found to have been guilty of misconduct in terms of the code. And which is something I think there's, with a lot of the spirituals that have been going around in terms of unethical leadership that have been happening, just not only with CAs but around the country. It has brought a new culture. It's sort of like it has become as if ethical leadership is something that not only SAICA needs to, preach. It's a broader thing. I mean, it's ethical leadership. It's about how you as a leader in your individual space view it. So that it's also when you are together with other leaders, you are able to conduct yourselves in a manner that is ethical, and it's always within the confines of what is considered acceptable for business purposes.
Okay, so back to your career. After you completed your articles, what was your next step after that? Where did you go?
After completing my articles, I joined PRASA, which is a state-owned entity. Yeah, sure. PRASA. It's one of the entities where that is responsible for the mass transportation of South Africans. They run the rail system for the country. It's unfortunately one of the entities where that has been currently placed under administration, and on the recent reports that came out, they seem to be going on a path of putting the entity back together. And there is a lot that the entity is responsible for in terms of transforming the whole rail system. So having to work there, I worked there as a senior manager responsible for the South Gauteng region.
Was that in auditing or finance?
No, it was in the financial management. And basically my role there was looking after the property portfolio. In terms of the leasing out of the property. That's a division I was at. And looking after the portfolio in South Gauteng, which included the whole of Johannesburg as well as Kimberley and Bloemfontein.
Reflecting back to that time, would you say what has now come to the forefront, were there any signs of any unworthy conduct taking place in the organization at the time?
At the time, because my focus, when I left BDO, it was a very structured environment, that operates within a very defined profile, and you know what to do, when to do it, and people take responsibility of what they need to do. So when I went into PRASA, it was a different world for me. Though I wanted to excel, and which I did, but at the same time, the environment was highly political. You know, you would not sometimes always get a person to do what they're supposed to do, or there'll always be reasons why things need to remain the same way, similarly because there's certain agendas that need to be achieved, which at the time, I just didn't know what was happening. So as a professional, I really got frustrated, and because there were certain things that I really wanted to achieve at certain points, but because of maybe the processes and the approvals and what it would take for something to happen. And also sometimes to feel that you almost need to belong within a certain clan for you to progress career-wise. It was also something that wasn't sitting well with me, because I think maybe from being a naive, I would talk a lot and I didn't care who it was, but I would just speak my mind regarding an issue that I would be unhappy about at the time. So when you are like that, you obviously would not be popular with everybody else. Everybody would know how you are like, but at the same time, I was like, you know what, I'm here to advance myself. I'm here to sell my skills. I'm here to advance whatever I can bring and change that I can bring in the environment. And if I can't, and if this is not for me, I need to consider what next can I do and what other new things can I start, you know, while I'm looking for new opportunities, as opposed to just sitting there being complacent and thinking that they owe me anything concerning my career.
Yeah, obviously state-owned institutions play a critical role in the country, in the economy, and even socially. It's quite a pity that we've had the incidents that we currently see in the public domain, where even some, you know, professional skills leaving the state-owned entities. But we need those people in there. We still need CAs, we still need qualified engineers, we still need lawyers. Being someone who's been in that space, what can you share with people who find themselves in these organizations and need to navigate through the system and still be able to create value and take these institutions forward?
The first thing I think that you just need to tell yourself is that you are there to serve.
Yeah.
Okay? You need to make up your mind concerning the ethical stand that you will take. You know, it's very challenging because sometimes you need to really reevaluate as to whether, do I want to do this from an ethical perspective of what you know is good and what is not good. But at the same time, our country needs us. You know, if we do not go into those areas and serve, then they will never be transformed. You know, it's almost like there's a change that you need to have, a transformation that you need to have within yourself when you go to an environment. To say that I'm going there to build, you know, I'm going there to win over people, because people, they are used to their own culture of doing things. And when you come there as a new professional, having not been in an environment, you're going to come there trying to think that, no, I'm just going to come there, tell them to do this, but there will be resistance. Because sometimes when you start, you may find that a lot of things are broken. And when you get there, because there's a lot of dependencies within other people within the system, you're not going to be able to get them all fixed. But what is it that when you leave, it's a legacy that you're going to say, this was broken when I came, but by the time I left, it was up and running. So I think it's having those pockets of success. It does not matter how small they are, but focusing on one thing and doing the thing and doing it very well.
Let's come back to where you are now. You are the managing director of the Modern Firm.
Yes.
This is a firm that you founded?
It is the firm that I founded, and funny enough, I founded it when I was still at PRASA.
Okay.
Yeah, because at the time when I felt that it was now a next move for me, it was just not happening. The market was not responding the way I wanted it to respond at the time, and I sat back, I said to myself, what opportunities are out there in the market at the moment? You know, I remember at the time, Triple BEE had just come into place, and the verification by registered auditors was something that SANAS had just approved. And I was like, oh, geez, I can be a registered auditor because I completed that. I wrote the PPE exams from EBRA. You know, I can do this verification. And if I don't need to be there the whole time, let me see how is this going to pan out. So while I was there thinking I'm going to find my next job, I was like, okay, I'm a CA. I can do a lot of things. I don't have to sit here and be frustrated when I could start something new.
Yeah.
So that's when I went into the whole founding of what the company is going to do, what it's going to be about, and looking at who I'm going to use, because I was still working full-time at the time. So it was a whole joy of having to find something new, you know, think about the name, the modern firm.
Yeah.
I had to run.
Where did that name come from?
I wanted a name that can resonate with wherever we go as a company.
Okay.
You know, I didn't want to use Phakathi and Associate, because when that associate leaves,
Yes.
or if there's new people in the firm, then you must constantly change your name, you know.
Yeah.
So I wanted a name that will appeal with any type of business I could go into. But at first it was going to be consulting, because that's where I was trained on. Yes. And also the name Modern Firm, to me, it wasn't just going to be a firm that sits in Grayston Drive and focuses on business that's in Grayston Drive, but it was also going to be a firm that can be able to go in the outskirts of the country where there is no CA. I mean, one of our KZN office is in Lungile Phakathi, which is the first Black, you know, professional office that is in the area.
So you have multiple offices?
It's just that office that's in KZN at the moment, but it's a rural town, it's a small town, and it's able to service communities there that need a professional accountant.
And how many people do you currently have in the whole firm?
We currently have 12 people at the moment within the whole firm, and with about 2 people that are in the KZN office.
Okay.
Yeah, so that office for me, it was, the modern to me was having that office there, getting a professional services firm to go and be established in a town like that. So that's what modern was to me.
I see.
Yeah.
And would you say you compete with the Big Four? Do you offer similar services?
Yes,
such as Deloitte, EY, PwC?
We offer similar services, but on a smaller scale in terms of what they do, because their focus is more on larger clients.
Yeah.
But our focus has been more or within the QSE range, as well as the EME range.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we do have some partnership with some of the big firms.
Okay.
Where there's partnerships required, then we do some.
And how did you forge those partnerships?
It was through just association, because I didn't outright go and say, look, I'm here, I need to be absorbed, or I need partnership. Yeah. But I think in terms of the transformation imperatives that firms are under, they constantly are looking to partner with firms our size, so that they're able to empower us and help us to grow into the next level of business.
Yeah. And how easy is it to start a business from scratch? How long have you been operating for now?
We're celebrating 5 years.
Wow, that's quite an achievement.
5 years in business.
Yes. How was the journey to starting that business? What were the challenges that you had to overcome?
The first year of business, it wasn't so hard because I was still working full-time. So it was more like a business was a side business. But from I think the first 2 years, and then the 3rd year of it, that's when I went into it full-time. At first, I thought I was going to work from home.
Okay.
And it worked well, I think, for the first 2 months. But then now I needed to get somebody to come. And I was like, I can't bring this person at home. Now I need office space. And as we got more work, I remember one of the contracts we're currently busy with was an audit for ATNS, which is one of the big state entities. I needed to have a bigger team to be able to support that contract. And I had to find an office, and I had to get more people in the office. It is good to have to take a decision on what must happen, and the decision making is usually short because there is not a lot of people involved in the decision making. But in terms of the cash flow, if you don't have enough money, that's always a limiting factor. Yeah. Because you almost need to always have people on site and have them work and be paid before you can actually receive money from the client. So it's having to learn to sacrifice certain things, particularly yourself, so that the business is a success. Yeah. And the sacrifice is not only from a time perspective, but it's also from an earning potential perspective, because you're looking at other people as opposed to looking at yourself. You know, you can defer you getting paid, But as long as your team is paid at the time, that's how you manage it, and you get by until a certain point where you are stable cash-wise and you can be able to structure yourself accordingly.
So at what point did you think or realize now the business is becoming stable, I should move in full-time? What made you to go full-time?
What made me go in full-time, it wasn't because the business was stable.
Okay.
And the business was like a startup until the time that I went into it full-time, you know. Because we are a professional services firm that sells time, the business was never going to realize its full potential with me running it at night.
Absolutely.
You know, putting
Yes.
4 hours here,
Yes.
putting 3 hours here. I needed to be there full time, make sure there's a team that can service people on time, build the right hours and do it right.
Yeah.
So beginning of 2017, I decided that it was time for me to pursue that and to see whether the business had a potential of growing or not.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I do, I sort of always put a timeline in terms of saying, you know what, by this time I need to have done this.
Yes.
So me not having given the business the time to grow and attend to it, it wasn't going to give or grow into a potential that it has today. And for me, have even realized that this is actually what I want to do going forward.
And has going full-time into the business helped it grow to get to where it is today?
It definitely has helped it to grow.
Yeah.
Because we built the business in terms of revenue size from where it was. And also we've established much more networks. And also nobody wants to invest in a business that somebody does at night.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
you cannot be able to meet new stakeholders, to engage with people if you don't have the time for your business. And also a business, I always say, is like a baby. You know, if you don't nurture it when it starts, you know, it's just gonna go all the way.
Yeah.
You know, you need to create the right systems. If it's a culture that you need to establish, you need to create the right culture. If it's investment in skills and training, it's things that you need to be there to see to it that they are done properly to be able to do the work as you need to.
A lot of people who start businesses, small businesses like yourself, struggle to pivot out of a corporate setting into running a business. Usually the question that comes up a lot is, how will I sustain myself financially?
Yeah.
How did you navigate that to make sure that it's not a challenge for you?
Yeah, as Paul would say, I have learned to live in plenty and to live, in less. You know, when I left corporate to start my articles, I had to take a salary cut.
Okay.
You know, which was a move that I thought was necessary.
Start your business,
for me.
you mean?
No, to start into a
when you
CA
started,
career.
Okay, yes.
Yes, I had to take a salary cut because when you're a trainee, you are paid within certain scales.
Yes.
And when I was holding a corporate job, I was already earning at a certain range. So me having to move from that point of high earning to almost less than half. I mean, I remember at that point, my salary was just paying my bond and my travel and some food, you know, and I never had much money to spare after that while going through my articles. So going into business, I had already calculated in terms of my spend, in terms of how much I would be able to make, you know. I knew that I had secured income for at least 2 years because that contract that we had was going to run for 2 years. And I knew that out of that contract, I can be able to sustain myself. And if things are really bad, I knew that I could make a certain amount of money that could sustain me for that time while I'm trying to get new business. So I think having to get over the fear of being without a job, it helped me to be able to be out of that corporate job and be able to start a business. Because a lot of what keeps a lot of people back is a fear of what's going to happen if I don't have this.
Yes.
You know, you can never have it all. You must be prepared to lose some things, you know, to get other things. Other people can have it all, which is good. But for some, you just need to be able to give up something so that you can get what really matters to you.
And you obviously gave up some things.
I
What
gave
are
up
those
some
things?
things. I mean, like, I used to always dine on a weekend. Like, after church, I do church very early, but after church, it was given that we're going out which is not cooking at home.
Yes.
So those things I had to cut because now I cannot always go and dine. You know, I had to reduce the amount of spending that I did in terms of buying clothes just sparingly whenever you're going and you get to buy, spoiling myself.
Yeah.
But on a good side now, when I spoil myself, I'm no longer going around spoiling myself on credit. I can just buy something that I want, and I know I'm not owing anyone.
Yes.
So on the spin-off, though I had to cut off those things, but now I'm able to even get them even better.
And when you're starting a business, you spoke about things like culture, people, recruiting, training, development, setting up the infrastructure, the organization, the systems. Can you talk us through how you approached all those elements? What did you do to make sure everything stacks up so that this business actually works?
Okay. Some things are still work in progress.
Okay.
But what was most important, it was the technical training when we started, because the cruelty with the environment in which you operate in, people don't say, oh, you are a startup CA, so we will forgive you on the quality of the work.
They expect the same level of quality.
You know, the level of quality is the same, you know, whether you're starting up or you've always been there.
Yes.
I mean, the set standards of performance that you must always meet regardless of the situation. So we had to obviously look at our peers, look at the bigger firm, the mid-tier firm, how they're doing things, you know, having learned the culture from there, what are the things that we need to introduce in terms of culture, you know, discipline in terms of timesheets, making sure timesheets are in place. From the labor perspective, making sure that there's proper policies in place to make sure that the business is regulated right, and looking at systems, sourcing more in-house training in terms of knowing the methodology for the work that we do, and also from a staff perspective, getting also junior guys that are coming straight from varsity to join our firm.
What do you look for in candidates?
In a candidate, I look for people who have potential, you know, who have energy, who have a vision of where they want to go. People who want to study further, because we sell knowledge. If you get a person on board who just wants to have a job, that firm is going to die like very shortly. You know, we want people that are geared to learning, who see themselves going somewhere after a certain time. So that's how we screen our candidates. We don't look for also people who have performed well academically, because if we have performed well academically, it also says that, you know what, you are capable of doing even more. But if you struggled academically, it becomes difficult for you to want to study further, because it's not so easy for you to do those things.
Culture is very important in an organization. It can either break or make the success of the organization. How do you, as a startup or small business, develop the right culture for the organization?
For us as a firm, we wanted a culture that will give us a balance between people always knowing what to do and doing it right, and also have that confidence of saying, I don't know how to go about this, and be able to come and ask and be mentored into learning something new. And also, we promote a lot of self-learning, because we don't have all the resources to take people to do this, to do that, but we empower people a lot in terms of self-learning. You know, if we have to get into a new system, for example, in terms of technology, if we have to use TeamViewer, I just say, guys, I'm not going to be in the office, we must connect. Can we use Zoom for a meeting? You know, so I've taught the team that people don't actually have to be physically there, you know, to be able to connect with them. You can have an interview with them. We have to update our clients in terms of meeting. Can we have a Skype meeting with a client? You know, if we need IT to help us, can they connect to our machines via TeamViewer? And everybody else understands how those things work. So as a modern firm, are we able to respond to clients, you know, as quickly as they want to? You know, are we able to go into their businesses and give them value for why they have us there? Because they can go to accountant A. What will make them different from accountant A to B? It's because of the level of service that they get from us.
Yeah, yeah. What, in conclusion, what does the next chapter look like for you?
It is packed. The next chapter for me, it will be focusing more on, I want to go into academia. And I'm hoping that through the academy, it's things I can do there as opposed to having to go into full-time academic work, because I like training and development. So I'm hoping I can be able to fulfill that part within the modern academy. I also want to focus more in terms of things that are legislative. If it's new release, that's where I want to be. If it's things that are going to bring change, that's where I want to be. Those are kind of projects that I want to focus on.
Lungile, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Jawo.
Congratulations again for your successes and achievements.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you.